Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And a lot of smiles today, I'm sure, because we have beautiful weather. And of course, we're in for a treat today. And of course, we have our music master over there, Bud Bowen. And we have our leaders today, Reverend Jack Lehman and Glenn Lehman. And we really are in a treat today, because today we're going to have Reverend Melissa. It's right there. But our assistant is Reverend Alice Snakey. But we truly are going to be in for a treat today. So she's going to be the minister of the day, and she's going to be the assistant. So enjoy.
Thank you, Pastor Lloyd. And I want to say good morning. And welcome to St. John's Church of Faith. And it's our pleasure and our honor to be with you this morning as we join together and share our light and our love filling this chapel. And now let's join together in song and fill this chapel with a great joyful sound and song together. Our first hymn is in the hymn book, number 378. Be thou my vision. And we'll stand on the last verse. I'm standing over here.
Be thou my vision, O
And we thank you for that beautiful hymn. I've never heard it before, but it's very beautiful. Yes, it is. Now, please pray with me in your mind and in your heart. Dear Heavenly Father, our most gracious and merciful Lord of all, we praise you and give glory to you. We give thanks for all the blessings which you bestow upon us each and every moment of our lives as we travel this earth which you have given to us. We thank you for what seems like the smallest gift, which we all take for granted, and that is our gift of oxygen, without which we could not survive on this planet. We thank you for your presence within all of us. Please guide our hearts and minds to always be channels of your light and builders of your intentions, that we may manifest the highest in our physical lives. We ask for special blessings, that those who are ill be healed, that those who are suffering find peace, that those involved in wars find peace and safety, that the leaders of all of our countries, of our world, be filled with wisdom. May we all become one in your love and light, that we may know each other, understand each other, forgive each other, as you know us, understand us, and forgive us. Lord, hear our prayers, and we give thanks. Amen. And now we'll sing the Lord's Prayer. You may be seated. And please speak with me the creed of our church as printed in your program today. This church was founded in order to teach, promote, and demonstrate metaphysical and spiritual laws. We respect the truths of all religions in order to expand awareness throughout the world, revering all life for the benefit of all mankind. And our spiritual reading for today comes from the New Century Version Bible. Isaiah chapter 9, verses 1 through 4. But suddenly there will be no more gloom for the land that suffered. In the past, God made the lands of Zebulun and Naphtali hang their heads in shame, but in the future, those lands will be made great. They will stretch from the road along the Mediterranean Sea to the land beyond the Jordan River and north to Galilee, the land of people who are not Israelites. Before those people lived in darkness, but now they have seen a great light. They lived in a dark land, but a light has shined on them. God, you have caused us, the nation, to grow and made the people happy, and they have shown their happiness to you, like the joy during harvest time, like the joy of people taking what they have won and more, like the time you defeated Midian. You have taken away their heavy load and the heavy pull from their backs, and the rod the enemy used to punish them with. And also from Luke chapter 19, verses 1 through 10. Zacchaeus meets Jesus. Jesus was going through the city of Jericho. A man was there named Zacchaeus, who was a very important tax collector, and he was very wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but he was not able to because he was too short to see above the crowd. He ran ahead to a place where Jesus would come, and he climbed a sycamore tree so he could see him. When Jesus came to that place, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, hurry and come down. I must stay at your house today." Zacchaeus came down quickly and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to complain, "Jesus is staying with a sinner." But Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, "I will give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anyone, I will pay back 4 times more." Jesus said to him, "Salvation has come to this house today, because this man also belongs to the family of Abraham. The Son of Man came to find lost people and save them." And we thank you for this reading. And our next hymn will be
Jesus Saves, 495.
Let's Stand and Sing. You may be seated. And it's my pleasure for the remainder of this service to put you in the very capable hands of Reverend Melissa Shafer.
Okay. Thank you. Morning. I guess I need a deep breath. This morning I'd like to talk to you about the Yellow Brick Road. I'm sure that you all remember the film The Wizard of Oz and the fantastic journey of Dorothy Gale and her dog Toto into a magic land of brilliant colors and adventure. In the beginning of the story, Dorothy's looking for a place where there's no trouble, but she certainly ends up finding her fair share. And what she finds out in the end is that she had everything she needed, she just didn't know it yet. When Dorothy first landed in Oz, Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, helped her out of a jam and sent her off to see the wizard, who might be able to help her in her newest dilemma, which was how to get back home. She points out the Yellow Brick Road and sends Dorothy on her way. By the way, did you remember that at the beginning of that story, that Yellow Brick Road was a spiral? And inside that spiral was another spiral. So just keep that in mind. We have a yellow spiral and a red spiral. One of my favorite scenes from the film takes place at the crossroads where Dorothy meets the Scarecrow. As Dorothy approaches the fork in the road, she wonders out loud to Toto which way she should go, which road is going to lead to Oz and take her back home. As she's sitting there wondering, she hears, "This is a very nice way." And she looks and she sees the Scarecrow pointing off to the right, but she can't figure out who's talking. Toto barks at the Scarecrow, and Dorothy's saying, "Now don't be silly, scarecrows don't talk." And she's standing there still wondering which way to go, and she hears, "That's a very nice way also." And finally, of course, some people do go both ways. Well, now Dorothy finally realizes that it's the Scarecrow that's talking, and she says, "Well, you did say something, didn't you?" The Scarecrow simply nods yes and shakes his head no at the same time. And the flustered Dorothy demands, "Are you doing that on purpose, or can't you make up your mind?" The poor Scarecrow responds, "Well, that's the trouble. I can't make up my mind. I haven't got a brain, only straw." "Well then, how can you talk if you haven't got a brain?" demands Dorothy. And in his quick-witted way, the Scarecrow reminds her, "I don't know, but some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, don't they?" Now, the Scarecrow, like Dorothy, had never been very far from home. In fact, he could still see the barn where he was put together from his pole. And well, frankly, the rest of his time was just spent hanging around. Actually, he considered himself somewhat of a failure. After all, he was a scarecrow, and he didn't do a very good job of it. He did make a lovely perch, not a very good scarecrow. Dorothy figured that if the wizard was as wise and wonderful as she'd heard, he might be able to solve the scarecrow's problems too. I mean, how could you make it without a brain? So she lifted the Scarecrow off his pole, and together they chose a path and eased on down the road. Now, I wonder what would have happened if they hadn't chosen a path. It might have made a pretty boring story, Dorothy living off the corn in the field, and the Scarecrow hanging around on his post, scaring crows all day. Would the lessons they learned have come to find them in the field, at the crossroads, while they whiled away the hours? We can imagine, but I suppose we'll never know because they chose a path, and they took the first step. And I'm still thinking about the spiral at the beginning of the story, because they took that first step and started out. So as our journey continues, Dorothy and the Scarecrow pick up two more traveling companions. They meet the Tin Man, who's literally stuck and unable to move through his grief. He thinks he has no heart, while his emotions lead him in and out of all kinds of troubles. And then they meet the Lion, who spends most of his time growling and scaring others so that he can feel a bit more powerful. He's so stuck in his own fear that he can't seem to get anywhere, though. Just a lot of noise. Together, this unlikely circle of friends heads off to see the wizard so they can solve their problems and get home. When they finally do get to Oz, the crew finds themselves following yet another section of the yellow brick road to discover strengths they didn't know they had. And in their travels, they met people who were so very different than they were, yet so much the same, because everybody is looking for something. And they saw lots of sights they'd never imagined they'd see. Or did they imagine they'd see them? In the end, they discovered the power of the wizard was only an illusion, and that they had what they needed to accomplish their desires all along. So let's leave Oz for a minute and head to Poland, way opposite ends of the spectrum. In Poland, there was a poor rabbi who lived in the city of Krakow. He lived on the street of the Lost Angel, in the last hovel on the street, with his wife and his 4 children. Since he was very, very poor, he dreamed every night of riches. But one night, the dream was exceptionally vivid. He dreamed that underneath the bridge in the city of Warsaw, there was a treasure. When he woke in the morning, he excitedly told his wife and his children about the dream. He then packed food and clothes and set off on the long journey to find that bridge. He traveled many long days and long nights and finally arrived in Warsaw. It was just as the dream had pictured it, except for one thing. There was a guard on the bridge, a sentinel who paced back and forth. And so the poor rabbi, tired from his journey, fell asleep in the bushes, and when he awoke, he rattled the bushes and got the guard's attention. "You there, come here." Now, the rabbi was a simple man, so he didn't run. He sheepishly came forward, and the guard said, "What are you doing here?" And the simple man who would not run was also a simple man who would not lie. He said, "I've dreamed that underneath this bridge there's a treasure, and I've traveled many long miles to find that treasure and be rich." Well, the guard said, "That's strange, because last night I had a dream too. I dreamed that in the city of Krakow, on the street of the Lost Angels, in the last hovel on that street, where lives a rabbi and his 4 children, there's buried behind the fireplace a treasure. But it's just a dream. It can never be true. Now you get out of here and run before I run you in. Never let me see you again." So the rabbi raced away and took the long journey back home. He went into his house on the street of the Lost Angel, went into his parlor, moved away the fireplace, dug underneath, and found the treasure, and lived happily ever after. So by now, I imagine you're seeing the similarities in these tales. In each instance, the characters of the stories were looking for answers, and they were looking for something better. And all along, they had exactly what it was they wanted and needed. They had their desires. And the tools to accomplish it, they just didn't quite realize it. Or shall I say, some knew it and some didn't. And isn't that, after all, what we're doing when we go looking for answers? We're just trying to confirm what we feel but can't define. We already know it's there, but we can't quite explain what it is. Dorothy and her friends seemed pretty clueless, even when their behaviors and their intuition proved otherwise. They pooled their resources and supported each other. They acted as mirrors for each other. And all the while, they were blind to everything that they accomplished. The rabbi, on the other hand, knew he had been given a gift, and he set out to claim it. All of our friends felt stuck in one way or another, and all of them felt like they had to move. Sometimes, like Dorothy, you choose to move without knowing that you chose it. She took the first step by running away, but then she decided she was going to back to what she knew. In other words, she let the universe know that she was ready. She set the intention. But when she decided to go back to what she thought she knew, the universe sent her a tornado to help her move along a little more. Sometimes when somebody comes into your life, and they gently lift you off your pole, or they oil your joints so that you can move and find your answers yourself. And sometimes someone tells you you're not who you think you are, and it's time you own your own power. In other words, suck it up and claim your throne. And then there are the wizards, who help you see things on your pathway and the things inside you. To them, the things that most people miss are the most obvious. And they know the answers are in simplicity. I have a friend, and yes, some people call him a wizard, who's known for telling me that the answers are inside. Stop looking for the answers and breathe. I think, though, sometimes, like our rabbi friend, you have to leave home in order to get back home. Sometimes you have to get outside in order to get inside. Remember the spiral at the beginning of the story? The Oriental theory of the universe is that the universe is a spiral, and it's constantly spiraling out and then spiraling back in. And each of us is also a universe, spiraling out and spiraling back in. But also remember that it's hard to find new galaxies if you never look up and see the night sky. So which fork do you take? I suppose you could study the road, find out who built it, why they built it, perhaps figure out what the bricks are made of and how long they'll last, so you can figure out how long you have to travel the road and how long it's going to be smooth. You could figure out the statistical probabilities for success based on the traffic patterns of those who've been there before you, or you could sit back and dream all about all of the places the road might take you. But the road remains untraveled until you take the first step. And then again, does it? Perhaps you've traveled it so much in your mind that once it's underfoot, you hardly notice it. And it takes you exactly where you expected. So which fork do you take? Just remember that this is a very nice way, and that way is very nice also. And some people do go both ways. That's it. That's all I have for you. Okay, now we'll do our collection. And I recruited Jeff and Elizabeth. Make them work, that's right. So I'd like you to just take a few breaths, relax, feel the breath, fill your body, and just allow it to roll in, kind of like the water rolling up on the shore. Feel it fill you up, roll out, and over onto the shore. And just when it reaches the end, let it come back in. Just one continuous wave.